I believed I already understood the cold, selfish Ava who treated me like a backup plan, but then I unexpectedly heard the voice in her heart. She cared about me completely and only wanted to find ways to stay by my side. When faced with the divorce papers, deep down, she was even more unwilling to let go, desperate for me to belong only to her. It turned out her coldness was an act while in truth she was lost in love, unable to control herself. As for me, I had been reborn back to the night before my sophomore year confession, before any of our past conflicts had occurred, and I refused to fall for her cat and mouse games again. The very day I decided to file for divorce, that was when I suddenly jolted awake and realized I could hear what others were thinking. I had always assumed that my wife, who had treated me coldly all those years, must be desperate to leave me. But what I heard inside her mind made me freeze completely. What am I going to do? My husband doesn't want me anymore, but I truly don't want a divorce. Boo-hoo. The sound of her crying inside left me speechless, but then, as I blinked, I realized I had somehow traveled back in time, back to my junior year of high school, back to the exact moment I stood before her and declared my love. She was the campus queen, and she shot me down on the spot. The crowd gathered around laughed at me. Without mercy, yet inside her mind, I distinctly picked up a delighted thought. She was thinking, I am so happy. James finally told me he likes me. Now, I'm going to make him cry and make sure I'm the only woman he ever loves. Rage surged through me, and I ripped away the love letter I had written for her myself, shredding it right before her eyes. After that, I tossed the scraps into the garbage and left without a single glance back. Chapter 1. Let's get divorced. I was seated at the kitchen table, and I spoke those words to Ava as she busied herself at the stove. She simply pursed her lips and answered flatly, Can you stop annoying me while I am making dinner? I gave a resigned smile. Maybe to Ava, every unnecessary word out of my mouth was nothing but noise. It was not until I placed the divorce papers I had prepared long ago in front of her that she finally froze on the spot. If everything looks fine, go ahead and sign, I told her. She stared blankly at the bold title on the front page, her fingers quivering. If I had not chased her relentlessly, there was no way she would have ever said yes and marry me. Ava had looked down on me for so long, it was part of who she was over. These 5 years, I had learned a harsh lesson. You cannot force love. A forced relationship never works out. I also slowly accepted the reality that Ava did not care for me. No matter how much of myself I gave her, she would never feel anything for me. So I decided it was finally time to wake up from this lie I had been telling myself. Ava parted her lips slightly. Right when I expected her to say yes, a crying sound suddenly appeared in my ears. A voice wailed, My husband does not want me anymore. What am I going to do? What am I going to do? Did I do something to upset him lately? I do not think so. So why is this happening? Boo-hoo, I was completely dumbfounded. Chapter 2. My eyes flew open. That voice belonged to Ava, but she had always been ice cold toward me and had never once addressed me with such affection throughout our marriage. No matter how hard I tried, she would always shove me away with a look of disgust, screaming at me to stay away and not touch her. How could someone like that possibly care about how I felt? I must have been imagining things. It had to be a trick of my mind. Yet immediately after, the voice went off in my head once more. Maybe I should pretend to choke on my rice and get my husband to take me to the hospital so I could buy us some time. But what would I even do once we got there? Boo-hoo. Maybe I should just break my leg. Everyone knows a broken bone takes months to heal. I will put things off as long as I possibly can. At that point, I was completely petrified because I knew for a fact Ava had not uttered a single word. Therefore, what I heard was unmistakably the voice inside her mind. In that instant, she seemed to turn into a total stranger. I hesitated, ready to speak, when everything suddenly went black. Chapter 3. If that is a love letter, do not bother. I will not take it. A sweet but completely flat female voice sounded in my ear. My eyes snapped open as I took in the familiar sights of the school campus. I realized with shock that I had somehow returned to my sophomore year of college. At that moment, I was clutching a love letter in my hand. 19-year-old Ava stood in front of me. She looked up, her eyes filled with undisguised haughtiness and disdain, as if she were saying, What a pathetic loser. Take a good look at yourself. See what right you have to confess your love to the campus princess. That was when I recalled. On this very day, after carrying a torch for her for 2 years, I had gathered every ounce of courage I had to lay my heart bare before her. She asked with a hint of confusion, "Why are you not saying anything?" Her perfectly shaped eyebrows lifted a little yet the following moment. Her inner voice echoed through my mind once more. "I am so happy. He finally told me he likes me, humph. Just you wait. I'm going to make him cry, humph. Come on. Tell me you love me, say it already. Why are you dragging your feet?" I am dying to see the look of heartbreak on his face when I turn him down weird. Why is he not speaking? Yet a daring idea flashed through my head, the fury inside me flared up all at once. What if Ava actually had feelings for me too? All this time, she had been acting like she did not give a damn about me. If that were true, then all those years of my devotion and effort, she must have seen my stupidity all those years as absolutely laughable. Chapter 4. Once I realized that, I ground my teeth, my fist balled up so hard my knuckles cracked. Audibly, Ava picked up on it, yet kept her composed look, but her inner voice betrayed her panic. "Oh no, this is bad. He seems a little upset. Should I tell him? I was just trying to see if he was serious, string him along, and buy myself more time. But what if he actually gets mad and then never chases after me again? What am I supposed to do?" She stuck out her bottom lip, as if she had just decided something monumental, then anxiously extended her hand and spoke. "All right, I suppose I can take your love letter. But that does not mean I am agreeing to go out with you. I have to put you through some tests first." Watching her put on that act of doing me a favor, I found it both ridiculous and absurd. I asked, "Who said this letter was even for you?" Her eyes went completely still, her face confused, and next moment, I ripped the envelope in my hand to shreds on the spot. I told her, "Get out of the way, you fool, you are in my way. I have got garbage to take out." I stepped around her and dumped the handful of torn paper into the bin. Just a few feet behind her, the air grew so quiet, it was almost frightening. I heard Ava gasp sharply, her heart screaming, "Why did he rip apart the love letter he wrote for me?" Out of the corner of my eye, I caught the way her eyes welled up on the spot, tears brimming and ready to spill over at any second. I could not be bothered to speak another syllable. I averted my gaze and walked away without another glance. I did not look back even once. Chapter 5. The college cafeteria. I sat at a table, holding my fork, and spaced out for ages, trying to wrap my head around something. I had truly returned to my school years, and I was 8 whole years younger based on how Ava responded. It appeared I was the only one who had been given a second chance. A voice calling out broke through my daze. "James, check it out. Your picture is on the campus Facebook page." My roommate across the table called out and passed me his phone. I had no idea who had taken the candid shot in the photo. Ava looked completely frantic. The more I remembered the icy way she had turned me down earlier, the more pathetic and desperate she seemed right now. Rifling through the garbage, the comment section had already blown up. Everyone was trying to figure out what could possibly be so important that the campus princess would throw her reputation to the wind like that. Still, the only thing I noticed was a tiny scrap of shredded paper in the picture staring at that little corner. I gave a bitter laugh. Where was this concern before? Now, you finally care. Ethan stared at the screen and let out a whistle. Whatever that thing is, it has got to be incredibly important to get Ava this worked up. I mean, the girl is gorgeous, has an amazing body, and comes for money. She was born at a finish line. We could never even dream of reaching for something to get her this invested. It cannot be anything ordinary. I thought back to all those years I'd spent following Ava around with nothing but my sincere feelings to offer. I had barely anything else of worth to give to. Bad sincerity is exactly the most worthless thing in the entire world. Chapter 6. A bitter laugh escaped me. What does it matter if it is important? Once something goes into the garbage, it belongs right there with the rest of the rubbish. A voice cut me off. "That is not how it is." A clear female voice argued back quickly. And at that moment, someone seized me by the wrist. I raised my head without thinking and found myself staring into a pair of big, round eyes. For a second there, her eyes clearly faltered, and she promptly released my hand, but her mind was shouting no. I just went through the garbage. I should not touch him, but I've already scrubbed my hands so many times. What if he thinks I am disgusting? I did not know whether to be annoyed or laugh. "Can I help you?" I pushed down how I felt and questioned her. Ava looked me dead in the eye. Her eyes began to grow red. Once more she told me, "That is not garbage," I said. What she muttered something under her breath, too low for me to catch. Then she took out from inside her jacket the love letter, now completely patched with scotch tape. She lifted it gingerly for me to see. I put it all back together. When she finished, she looked up at me with hopeful eyes. I knit my brow. I had shredded that letter into tiny bits, putting it back together. Must have taken her a lot of work still. I did not go easy on her and answered with ice in my voice. That was a letter I wrote for a dog to read. Why do you love it so much? Ava's face went stiff on the spot a moment later. She whispered, well, I am that dog. I was so stunned I could not even speak. Chapter 7. The moment I stepped back into the dorm, Ethan practically lunged at me. Die for the tea. Be honest with me, James. What is the deal between you and Ava? You rip up the letter you wrote for her, and she actually fishes it out of the garbage and puts it back together piece by piece. Is she into you too? This is insane. Good for you, man. What did you do to make the campus princess this obsessed? Come on. Give me all the details. He had the expression of someone who had just found out something huge, his eyes gleaming with excitement. But as he went on, he noticed I was not reacting at all and stopped short. He reached over to feel my forehead, mumbling, what is up with you? You do not have a temperature. So why are you not the least bit excited? He grumbled. I looked away and swatted his hand aside. There's nothing wrong with me. My composure actually freaked Ethan out a little. Ever since the first day of classes, from the moment I first laid eyes on Ava, I was already head over heels, completely gone for her at first. It was just my own little secret until one day Ethan found me out. He picked up on how every time I crossed paths with Ava, my entire demeanor shifted. That was when it finally clicked for him for where he was standing. This was incredible news. The girl I had pined after for ages actually liked me back. We were the perfect couple, a match made in heaven. But from where I stood, all of it seemed more like a twisted joke for 9 entire years. I had poured my whole heart into her and never once received anything back. To suddenly learn that she had actually cared about me this whole time, those 9 years, seemed as laughable as a bad comedy. How was I supposed to be happy about that? So I told him I used to be a total fool, and now I am done being a desperate simp. Ethan looked shocked all over again. Normally, he would have kept digging since he knew better than anyone how crazy I used to be over her for me to do a complete 180 like. This had to sound totally insane to him, but surprisingly, he did not press further. Instead, he fished 2 club discount vouchers out of his pocket. There is a party Saturday night. Spend $200, get 15 back. And they throw in 2 beers. You coming? Or what? I was temporarily lost for words. He chuckled and put his arm around my shoulder. Do not worry about it. Do not stress over it. A couple of drinks, and you will forget everything. It works. Trust me on this. He actually made me laugh. I accepted the vouchers Ethan passed over and agreed, without hesitation, to go with him. Chapter 8. The club. The second I pushed the door open, the blaring music hit me right in the face. Lights shifted nonstop around the room, flashing so fast it was dizzying. Bodies writhed in the middle of the dance floor, gyrating to the beat. The air was thick with recklessness and cheap intimacy. Ava was exactly the type for places like this. Every time before she headed out, she would make a point to get all done up, looking sexy and flashy, and then right in front of me she would announce, bold as anything, that she was going to the club. Every single time it drove me up the wall. I could not stop myself from bundling her up in layers of clothing. She would shoot me a dirty look, call me petty, and say I was stuck up and no fun. Then she would turn up her nose and head back to our room and go to bed. One time, I decided I wanted her to get a taste of her own medicine. I rounded up a few of my buddies planning to go live it up at a club myself. But she cut me off before I even got there. She lost it on the spot, telling me if I had the nerve to not come back, she would divorce me. I was completely speechless. That double standard was way too obvious, man. I had not learned much else, but the more I thought about it, the more pissed off I got. I slammed my glass down on the table with a thud, and my head was starting to feel a little fuzzy. All of a sudden, a sweet female voice whispered right next to my ear, hey, hot stuff, just get dumped. I turned toward the voice. The girl speaking had already taken the seat beside me. Do not waste your time on some loser. You are way too good looking. I'm sure you can find someone 100 times better. She rested her chin on her hand and gazed at me with gentle features. Everything about her screamed sweetness. One extra glance, and my heart could not help but melt a little. She had on lip gloss that looked like jelly, and when she smiled, there was something cloying and alluring about it. Ethan, who was sitting beside me, kept jabbing me with his elbow and tilting his head toward her with a sleazy grin of approval. She is good. This girl is actually good, way better than that ice queen Ava. What is that saying? If one tree is no good, you find a whole new forest. There's a whole forest out there waiting for you. I was about to fire something back at him when I suddenly spotted a familiar silhouette in my peripheral vision. Ava looked completely emotionless, striding over on her heels, making a beeline straight for me. I went stiff. Hold on the buzz. I had faded halfway In an instant, chapter 9, she came to a stop right before me. You could actually see the temperature drop around her. Ava shot me a freezing cold look, the girl beside me got so frightened she jumped and ran off instantly. I was going to tell her she still owed for her drink, but she was already long gone. Ava said, having a good look. Are you? She actually smiled at me for once, but the more I looked at it, the more ominous it felt. Like dark clouds before a storm. It was exactly like those last few seconds of stillness before a hurricane hits. She gripped the fabric of her dress and bit her bottom lip as she asked, syllable by syllable, you are still staring. You like what you see that much? Should I go bring her back for you, just so you do not lose track of her later? I had no comeback for that. No thanks. Do not go to any trouble on my account in all those years. It was the first time I'd ever seen her so furious, and it actually made me a bit uncomfortable. So I scratched the back of my head the next moment. Ethan suddenly gave an over-the-top mono man. I think I have had too much to drink, and with a thud, he collapsed face down on the table, striking a look that said he was completely wasted. Me. Ava gave him a quick look and said in a dry voice, I already texted your sister to come pick you up. She's waiting by the entrance. The second she finished speaking, that idiot popped right back up from the table and hollered Roger that. Thanks for the ride. Thanks, Ava. Catch you later. And with that, he bolted out of sight like the wind. I was left speechless. Once more, I had to be out of my mind before I could snap back to reality. Someone grabbed hold of my earlobe and pulled that hurts. Get outside with me. Ava hauled me out by my ear. Without another word, let go of me. What are you even doing? I winced and tried my hardest to pull away, but she whipped around and bit me right on the mouth. Do not move. I froze completely. The light trace of her perfume still clung to my lips. Chapter 10. Ava pulled me along as she weaved through the people toward the exit, being tugged and yanked through all those people, watching her tiny silhouette push through the crowd in front of me. I was suddenly hit with an overwhelming sense of déjà vu. What I was seeing right now mirrored all those times over the years when she would go cold and turn her back on me. Walking off and leaving me behind, they all blurred together. By the time we reached the club's front door, she shoved me straight into the passenger seat and stood outside by the door, a tiny little thing, but with intense pressure rolling off her. Her round eyes locked onto me. Still burning with fury, the next moment, she abruptly leaned in close. I instinctively pulled back, on guard, without even thinking. Watching me flinch away like that only made her more furious. Ava ground out between her teeth, James, think you're too grown up for me. Now you used to swear to me no smoking, no drinking, and now here you are a few drinks down, and you've even learned to mess around with other women. The word used to made my eyes go wide. Was this Ava standing before me? Also the same one from 8 years in the future? I fired back with ice in my voice. Who do you even think you are? Whether I drink, who I talk to, it is none of your damn business. Her face flushed bright red, and she yelled, you're not allowed to talk to anyone else. You cannot. I forbid it. I was speechless. I was about to pull the door handle and get out when she suddenly slammed her foot on the accelerator. I could not fight her for control of the wheel, and jumping out of a moving car was not exactly a smart move. I was stuck between a rock and a hard place I could not leave, and I could not run, so I decided to just go with it. I will just see what exactly is you're trying to do. She drove straight to the little apartment we had rented back when we first started dating. The second we walked in, before we could even get the lights on, she launched herself into my arms. Chapter 11. She asked quietly, her voice muffled, do you truly not have feelings for me anymore? Her tone seemed fairly composed, but had a touch of cautious begging underneath. Moonlight streamed in at an angle through the window and landed across her face, adding a shade of loneliness I could not quite name. I just thought it was laughable. She was the one who had treated me badly from the start, so why did she get to act like she was the wounded party? I took a deep breath and laughed bitterly. That is right. I stopped caring about you ages ago, but Ava only held on my wrist harder, closing in on me. So who do you like then? That woman from before? Yes. I looked down at her eyes and kept twisting the knife. Not only her, anyone with a good body and a decent face. I liked them all. Before I could even finish my sentence, she suddenly rose up on her toes and pressed her lips hard against mine. I pushed her off me. She bit her lip. Furious with herself, her eyes welled up with tears, right away ready to spill over at any moment. I do not believe that you are lying. I looked away, unable to keep looking at her, and said in a dull voice, do not think that this is going to make me give. And I gave a soft sigh. Ava, that routine does not work on me anymore. The instant I finished speaking, her tears started streaming down like they were free. I stayed silent, but the longer I remained quiet, the harder she sobbed. She pulled on my sleeve. and cautiously lifted her eyes to meet mine. Are you truly upset? You can curse me out if you want, say whatever you want me. Just please do not shut me out. Do not treat me so coldly. I thought back to all those years, how much effort I had put into her. How precious she was to me. She had lapped up everything I gave her while treating me like an idiot and laughing at my sincerity now that I did not want anything to do with her. She was the one clinging to me. It was absolutely absurd. Chapter 12. When I stayed quiet, she dropped her gaze. Looking so defeated, she almost fell against me. James, can you just talk to me? Please, I really know I messed up. She took my hand and held it to her cheek, nuzzling it softly, pleading with me in a sweet, weak tone. But all I felt inside was revulsion. I yanked my hand away instantly, not want to lay a finger on her again. My face fell, and I shot back with biting sarcasm, a cracked mirror. No matter how many times you patch it up, will never be like new, just like that love letter you shredded broken is broken no matter how carefully you glue it back together. No matter how whole it seems, it can never be exactly the same as the day I wrote it. Feelings that show up late are even worse than weeds on the side of the road. But then she took out a brand new letter from her pocket and held it out to me with even greater care. So I wrote another one. See, this one is fine, not ripped up. She left me feeling both exasperated and wanting to laugh for a minute. I had no idea how to respond and nearly laughed at my own reaction. I questioned her. Do you think this is some kind of game? Do you think I cannot survive without you? Or something watching me grovel for you? You get off on that. Do not you now that you do not have anyone fawning over you? You cannot handle it. What do I even mean to you? Chapter 13. A flash of panic was obvious in Ava's eyes. That is not what I meant. I did not. I interrupted her. You turned me down on my face. I will give you that you told me no in no uncertain terms, but the whole time you kept me dangling inside your head. You just wanted to watch me after you shot me down. All new and bitter. What part of you was ever genuine? You have a thing for torturing people. Do not you? She went rigid on the spot. The smile on my face turned even more cold and cruel. Watching her face after I'd seen right through her, I felt not one shred of pity for her. Yet somehow Ava looked even more pathetic. She whispered, but caring about someone, isn't that just how it works? It is supposed to be painful. It is supposed to be hard. Isn't it? I went numb right then, and there my head was a complete fog. I had no idea what she was talking about. Seeing how lost I looked, she bit her bottom lip, but did not go on with her explanation. She simply turned and switched on the light in the living room with a click, then dragged me into a different room. Hold on, she said, climbed onto a little stool and pulled a heavy photo album down from the highest shelf. She brushed off the dust and slowly flipped it open page by page. Old memories broke free of their seal. Chapter 14. When you care about someone, you cannot help but want to know everything there is to know about them. But I had known Ava for 9 years, and she had never once talked about her mother or father. From when we started dating to when we got married, I had never laid eyes on her mother or father. Every time I tried to bring it up, it felt like slamming into a brick wall. Ava would not say a single word about them. After a while, I stopped forcing the issue, and now the puzzle that had haunted me for years was finally going to be solved. Chapter 15. This is my mom, she said, pointing to the woman in the picture. The background showed a park. The woman was holding her as a toddler of about 2 or 3. Her mother back then was gorgeous, sweet, and had so much class. She had a soft smile, and her eyes shone bright. But as she flipped further, the smile on her face gradually disappeared, and the sparkle in her eyes faded little by little. Ava then pointed to a different picture, to a place where the photo had been hollowed out. Right here, there used to be my dad. If she had not said something, this was supposed to be a family photo, but someone had mercilessly cut that figure out with scissors. The edges were all rough and torn. A lot of the pictures had the same kind of songhan, and some corners had even been burned black by fire. It was the kind of thing that made your skin crawl. Chapter 16. She told me my mom really loved my dad in those days, but he was always making her cry. Ava was still little then. She had only just learned how to speak and did not understand anything, but little kids have the sharpest instincts. She could see that her mother was always upset. She asked, full of curiosity, why are you always crying, Mommy? And her mom would hug her and cry even more, and as the tears rolled down, she said, because Mommy loves Daddy too much. When you love someone, sometimes you get so happy you cry, and sometimes it hurts so bad the tears never stop. But in the end, even all those tears could not make him stay. they still went their separate ways, and each went off to start new families of their own, and Ava became the one caught in between them, an extra, person who was always in a way. They gave her plenty of money, but not once did they ever give her love at the start, after all she had been. The treasure they held most dear, their little princess, their only daughter, cherished and adored. So many people spend their whole lives trying to heal the scars of their childhood on the outside. Ava seemed fine living by herself, used to being independent, carrying all her own weight, but underneath it all, she was still desperate to be loved. The irony was part of her, was dying for affection, but she never truly believed that she deserved to be loved the right way. So she would test things again and again to see whether the person would walk away, purposely pushing away the ones who cared about her just to get a meager sense of security. She told me, "You once said to me that on that first day when you saw me, you already had feelings for me," as she said. That. She glanced up at me, her gaze darting away shyly. "But you had no idea that in that exact same moment, I had already fallen for you too." She slowly pushed aside one section of the bookcase, and what was revealed made me freeze right where I stood. It was a massive wall covered in butterflies. At first glance, it was already breathtaking, but when I stepped closer and examined it, I realized that each and every butterfly was actually made from pieces of photographs. I went over and took a closer look and was shocked to find nearly every single picture contained me. She said, "This one is from the day we first laid eyes on each other. You did not notice at the time I took it." Without you knowing, Ava was standing beside me, pointing to the picture at the very top. Memories came rushing back in an instant. It was move-in day. I was loaded down with 8 duffel bags and had 2 giant suitcases dragging behind me. I staggered with every step, barely keeping my balance. But the reality was, out of those 2 huge bags, only one of them actually belonged to me. The rest was all that idiot Ethan stuff. He claimed he could not hold it anymore, dropped everything he owned, and ran off to the restroom, leaving me by myself to watch over what looked like half his apartment back then. When I saw all those bags, I was blown away. That was not a guy coming to study. That was someone moving his entire life onto campus. Thinking about it now, I still think he did me dirty that day. She said in a gentle voice, "That day, I happened to catch sight of you, and I thought you were amazing, so sure of yourself, so warm, willing to take on so much for your friend. No matter how exhausting or difficult it got, you never uttered a single complaint." As Ava said this, the corners of her mouth curved up on their own, like she had completely fallen into that warm memory. Meanwhile, over on my side, my mind had already begun picturing the scene of me punching Ethan all over again. She went on, "Actually, I did come over that day to ask if you want a hand." I paused, taken aback what happened after that. I have zero recollection of that. I never knew that Ava, before I ever laid eyes on her, had already been quietly watching me for ages. She told me, "You had so much stuff on your back, you did not even see me. One of your suitcases came rolling straight over and crushed my foot." Ava hesitated, then added, "And then you casually shoved it ahead and ground over my foot a second time." Me. As soon as she said that, I did seem to have a faint memory of that at the time. I had thought the bag was caught on a stone. I did not feel like going around it, so I just gave it a hard push. Turn out I had used her foot as that rock. Thinking back on it, I got pretty embarrassed and apologized in a rush. "I am so sorry. I honestly did not see you back then." Chapter 17. "And there's this one too." Ava pointed to the picture beside it. In the picture, I was standing there by myself holding 3 ice cream cones. She said, "At first, I thought you had bought them for your friend, but I ended up trailing behind you and watched you down all 3 by yourself." As she said that, a hint of envy, barely there, flickered in her gaze. She murmured, "You had such a good appetite back then. You could put away so much food." I put my hand to my forehead, lost for words, and started to genuinely question my existence. When other girls like a guy, it is because he's attractive and manly, but with her, the reason she liked someone went completely off script. She was about to keep going. In this picture, I cut her off fast. All right, enough, stop, hold on. That is plenty. If you keep going, I'm going to need to dig a hole and crawl inside." This whole trip down memory lane was full of nothing but my most humiliating moments. She added one more thing, and for the record, the one who made the first move was me. That made my brain freeze up. When exactly was that? I combed through my memories, but I could not remember that ever happening. Seeing how confused I looked, Ava pulled out her phone and opened up her own feed on Instagram and showed me it was the day before I had written her that letter. She had posted a picture with just one sentence: "Under the same sky." I furrowed my brow. And then what What is that supposed to mean? She explained carefully that was taken over by the science building. You were just getting out of class. If you had just looked up, you would have been looking at the same sky. I always admit we are under the same sky is not that a really romantic thing to say when she finished. She raised her eyes to me, her gaze shining like a little kid, waiting to be complimented. I was quiet for a good while hold on there a confession like that. Without an instruction booklet, no one in their right mind would get that. Forget even a microscope. You could hand me a map, and I still would not figure it out, she continued. But at the time you even liked that post on my feed, I thought you had gotten at the corner of my mouth twitch for the first time ever. I felt like I had absolutely nothing to say, she added in a quiet voice. And one more thing. I was not trying to shut you out, Ava swallowed with difficulty and patiently tried to make me understand. Chapter 18. I know everything about you, what you like, and what you do not. I remember so many of the little things you do, I asked, such as she replied, like when you are happy, you smile, when you are not. You get down when you're hungry, you look for food. When you're thirsty, you get something to drink. I was quiet for 2 beats. Then I said, can you tell me something that goes beyond the basic fact that I am a living human being? She murmured, and then went on. She listed out all the foods. I love the soups. I enjoyed one by one. She used to always tell me that she was not going to cater to me. When she cooked, she would just cook whatever she felt like, take it or leave it, but everything she made in the kitchen happened to be all the things I loved most at the time. I had thought it was odd thinking that our palates were way too alike. I asked her, so why did you never tell me? She knew everything about me, while I was desperate to learn just a little more about her, but she had herself sealed up tight, not leaving me the smallest opening. I spent 9 years and could not even pry open a corner of her heart. That feeling, it was awful back then. I actually believed that she thought I was not good enough, or that there was already someone else in her life, which was why she treated me so coldly. Ava dropped her gaze, her face darkening, and said in a small voice, because I wanted to be the best version of myself in your eyes. I was scared that once you really knew me, the more you would feel like I did not deserve you, and then you would not care about me anymore. She was terrified that if she ever showed me who she truly was, I would be let down and would leave her over and over. Just like everyone else had, she always thought that she was the one who fell short, and that was why she had been so easily left behind by her mother and father. If only she had been a little better, a little more exceptional. If she could have made them feel like they could be proud of her, maybe then they would have cared about her a little more. I could not help myself and blurted out, that is on them from beginning to end. You were never the one at fault. You do not have to win anyone over, and you definitely should not put all the blame on your own shoulders. Her eyes grew wet and foggy, but her tears clung stubbornly to the edges of her eyes. Refusing to drop. Chapter 19. She whispered, before I found you, I was like a tree that was almost dead, and you were the spring that came too late. Someone who has been touched by that kind of light, how could they ever be okay with going back to the dark? I cradled her face and looked her straight in the eyes, speaking each word deliberately. If you really love a person, you will love every single part of them. The part of them that shines, you love that. And the part of them that is weak and a mess, you love that too. Loving only the pretty, respectable parts, the parts that have been packaged up and presented, that is not love. That is just a passing infatuation. Ava tried to smile, but there was bitterness hidden inside it. Too bad. I figured this out way too late, and I was way too slow to learn it. I put you through so much for so long. It was only afterward that she finally understood that when you love someone, you become incredibly sensitive to how they feel when they are hurting. It hurts you even more. You will not want them to feel anything bad, even a little bit. She lifted her hand and gently ran her fingers across the wall of butterflies over all those tangled, woven threads. These lines, she had threaded each and every one by herself like a cage she had deliberately constructed to trap this butterfly tightly by her side. If she could have it her way, she would have kept me trapped in there forever, only with her. But if being near her meant also coming close to all that sorrow, then she would rather use her own hands to cut those lines and let me go. It seemed like she had always wanted to keep me locked in, but the truth was, from beginning to end, the one who was truly trapped was her. On the night before I had placed those divorce papers in front of her, she had secretly wished on a shooting star, because that was when she finally understood that I was not happy at all through all those years. She had not even noticed just how much I love her. She knew it was all because of her. So she made a wish on that falling star, asking whether it could rewind time and give me one more chance to make a choice, even if what came at the end was losing me for good. James, she said my name gently, her gaze earnest and intense. I've already told you everything there is to know, so Do you still have feelings for me? Do you want someone as flawed as me? Chapter 20. In my head was total chaos. I still had feelings for her that had never changed after everything. So many years of emotion cannot just be severed on a whim and cannot be erased with a simple, I am done. No matter how much you say it, but all that history between us, that is also the reality staring us. Eyed in the face, I was confused. I took a deep breath and told her, I am sorry. I do not know, at least right now. I could not give her the answer. She was hoping for my reaction was probably something she had already expected. She just smiled a little and said, it is all right, you can think it over slowly. Time will give us the answer, at least for now. Everything that was confused is out in the open. We have a whole new understanding of one another now. When it came to love, Ava stopped being so cautious. Like she was walking on eggshells, she finally learned how to openly and freely express how she felt, to confront her own feelings and needs head on. She started to be willing to share the good things that happened to her with me right away. But at the same time, she also got more and more high maintenance and needy. Chapter 21. Once out on the field, she was running and tripped 1 second. She had been telling her friends, hand over her heart, that it did not hurt, and she was totally okay. But the moment she spotted me, she immediately put on a pout, acted all pitiful, and started whimpering, it really hurts. Hey, handsome, could you give me a hand? Me. Chapter 22. She used to absolutely hate sweets now. Every time we go out, she always ordered 2 boba teas, 1 for each of us. This made me think back to when I first started dating Ava. On our first date, I had excitedly bought 2 Taro boba teas, figuring every girl likes sweet things, and it was a new flavor. And it actually tasted decent. I had stood in line for half an hour just so I could give it to her as a surprise. But that time she had frowned through the entire drink and even said to me, if you ever buy me that again, you can drink both of them by yourself. I had been completely confused and could not understand at all if she hated the tea itself or if she was just using that as an excuse to reject me too. I had to tell myself that. She was probably trying to lose weight, did not want to get fat, and that was why she did not like sweet things. It was only now that she finally explained the real reason. It was not that she did not like them. It was that they were too sweet for her. She cannot take it as a little kid. She actually loved sweets, but then her teeth got seriously rotten. There was one time the pain was unbearable. She was holding the side of her face, and it hurt so much. She was sweating in fear. There was no one around to help her. Her parents were already divorced by that point, and they had left her by herself in that huge house. The occasional babysitter would come during the day, but once the babysitter clocked out and left, she had no one at all to ask for help in the end. When the pain got completely intolerable, she just used the house phone to call for an ambulance. She was still so young back then, sitting all by herself in that ambulance, trembling from fear from that day on. She did not dare to eat sweet things much anymore. Chapter 23. Ava explained in a clumsy way, as though she was worried I would not get it, waving her hands around frantically as she talked. When I saw how upset you looked back then, I knew that I had definitely said something wrong, but I honestly did not mean it the way you took it. She was spinning in circles from anxiety, but I just thought it was amusing and a little childish. She got even more flustered as she kept explaining. Truly, you've got to trust me on this. I surrendered. Okay, I believe you spending time together like this again. I slowly came to realize that a lot of the contradictions in her were not on purpose inside. She was thinking one way, but the moment the words came to her mouth, they would come out completely different. It was honestly so crazy, it was almost magical. She added, actually, after I went home that day, I ordered myself the exact same boba tea. She slowly got used to the idea that having something sweet did not have to hurt like it did when she was a child. In fact, that sweetness could actually make her feel a little better. She started to copy me, to imitate the things I like, to pick up things that no one had ever taught her, like a clumsy little kid watching what other people did and trying it out bit by bit over those 9 years. I've been teaching her how to care for another person, showing her through my own feelings that every person deserves to be loved. But to earn that love, you first have to learn how to love yourself the way you deserve. And so she slowly learned that as well. Chapter 24. The next 3 years of college passed by quietly and uneventfully. We each kept busy with our own lives when we saw each other during the day. We were like regular classmates, chatting and joking around like normal. Whenever we had a moment, we would stroll together around the field, watching the evening clouds turn the sky red and letting the night breeze drift around us. Our steps slow and easy. We would talk about the past, and we would talk about our own futures until the day we graduated. she spoke before I could, and in front of the entire school declared her feelings for me. At the commencement, the crowd below instantly exploded with cheers up on that stage. She held a bundle of sunflowers, a symbol of faithfulness, in a quiet, unshakable strength. The way she looked at me was intense and full of focus, overflowing with love that she could not keep hidden anymore. James, she said my name gently, and then asked me that same question from before all over again, once more so. Do you still have feelings for me now? I gazed at her face and could not stop the corners of my mouth from turning up into a wide, bright smile this time around. I gave her a definite answer the instant my words. Faded sunlight broke through from behind her, clouds flooding the whole auditorium. The sunflowers in her hands turned a brilliant, shining gold, glowing warmly, just like her from that moment forward together. We step into a completely new future. Coldness is often nothing more than a cry for help from someone terrified of being left behind. Do not test love by pushing people away. Heal it with honesty. See the fragility in those you love and accept your own flaws. You do not have to become perfect before you are worthy of being loved. Do not let sincere feelings get worn down by endless tests. And do not let love pass you by just because no one spoke up. A butterfly does not need to be trapped in a cage. It only needs a soft wind that understands it.